Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're checking out the Logitech K400 Plus today. This is another living room keyboard. We looked at the more expensive K800 a few weeks ago. This one is a no-frills version, but it's also only $20, so a very good price for a very functional keyboard that you can use wirelessly across a room. So this is what it looks like here. A little bit flimsier than the more expensive K800, but I think it's definitely functional for what most of us would use something like this for. You plug it in with this little USB dongle. This is the wireless transmitter and receiver, so you just plug this into your computer or other device and it will start working without a driver. In fact, it works on the Mac, it works on Windows, it works on Android, even Linux and Unix devices also should work with this just fine. Anything that supports a standard USB keyboard and mouse will work with this. Now the Apple TV at the time that I'm recording this does not work with this, but at some point I would imagine they'll add keyboard support at some time in the near future. So even if the trackpad portion doesn't work with your device, the keyboard likely will. I'll show you how it works on a few devices I have here on my desk in a minute. Pretty basic design. You've got a full-size keyboard here. The keys don't feel as nice as the more expensive version does. They're also not backlit either, but if you're not looking for anything spectacular, this is certainly going to get the job done. The trackpad though does feel every bit as nice as the more expensive trackpad. It feels pretty much like the same overall hardware on this side, so this trackpad works very well, and you also have a full set of multimedia keys on here. You can change the way these function keys work as well as the gestures on the trackpad, but only on Windows, and I'll show you that configuration software in a few minutes. So it'll function the same across all devices, but on Windows you can configure it to work slightly differently than it does on other platforms. Now it does not have a rechargeable battery. It runs on 2 AA's that they say is good for like over a year. So if you're only using the keyboard for an hour or two a day, you shouldn't have to change these batteries anytime soon. Usually you'll get anywhere from 12 to 18 months of battery life out of it. I also like the fact that they include a spot to stick the dongle in, because I am always losing the dongle on the other device. So you can stick it in here and put it away for safekeeping, especially if you are constantly switching your devices around. So that's a nice little feature there. And then you just have a switch here to turn it on and off, and that is how you get it up and running. So not much to it, pretty simple. Let's plug it in and see how it works with all of my devices here on the desk. All right, let's take a look at how it works on the Mac first. I'm going to take out our little dongle here and plug it into the USB port on the Mac, and what will happen is immediately that keyboard is going to come up, and I can grab my mouse pointer here and select some text if I want to do that. So it pretty much works like any other keyboard will, but I can use it from across a room. So I'm going to pull the dongle out of the Mac now, and I'm going to plug it into my little Android tablet here. I have what's called an Otg cable attached to the Android tablet. So on Android devices, most of them have that little USB plug. You can get this cheap $2 cable here to convert from the smaller cable to the larger one. And so we'll plug in the dongle on here, and you'll see the keyboard on screen disappear. I'm going to switch over to a better view here so you can see how this works. So as I move the trackpad around, you can see my mouse pointer moving. I can also, of course, start typing and get the same experience on Android that I had on my Mac. So now I'm going to plug it into my Windows computer, because there are a few more things you can do on Windows with this keyboard that you cannot do on the other platforms we just looked at. So I have right now the Logitech Options software loaded up. This is a free download from Logitech, and what they let you do is make some configuration changes to your keyboard. So for example, if I click on the F1 key here, I can do a whole bunch of different stuff on that key. There's a bunch of different things that I can have it do, as you can see here. I can also change the way this keyboard operates too, insofar as how those function keys work. If I click on this option here, pushing F1 on the keyboard will actually be F1 and not the back key as it is by default. So normally if you want to hit F1 on the keyboard, you have to hold down the function key and then hit the F1 key. By checking off that box down here, I can make it so that the F1 key works without the function key. So there's a lot of very granular kinds of settings you can do on this thing. I also have the ability to change how the trackpad operates, so I can change the scroll direction on here, a bunch of different settings here for that. Even the pointer speed can be adjusted, and then I can also change the gestures, and my favorite one here is tap to click. So right now, if I have the default setting on and I just tap onto the trackpad, it gives me a click option, which I don't like. A lot of people like that. I don't like that. So I can tap here to disable it, and now when I tap again, nothing happens. I have to push the button or push this yellow button in the corner here to get a click. So I kind of like disabling that. Unfortunately, all of these settings only pertain to Windows. So if I unplug this keyboard keyboard and plug it into my Mac, the tap to click will be re-enabled because right now there's no configuration utility on the Mac, nor is there one on Android. So all these settings you just saw can only be done on Windows at the moment, and that is the only flaw of this keyboard, and quite frankly, their more expensive keyboard too. It's only Windows where you can configure how these operate, unfortunately, but don't let that take away from it being a very useful and very affordable keyboard that I found to be very useful in my home theater environment as well as here in the studio. And for 20 bucks, you really can't go wrong. This really will do a very good job for you. This is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the generosity of my Patreon supporters. If you find the channel helpful, you too can contribute for as little as $1 a month. Visit Lon.TV/Patreon to learn more.